Okay, hi everyone. So today we're going to do a chocolate Yule log, only 7 ingredients, absolutely amazing. Number one, you need a proper tin. This is a proper Swiss roll tin. So you get a Swiss roll tin and you line it with some greaseproof paper, just stick it there, just so it doesn't stick. So that's stage one, let's get on with stage two. The oven on, 200, and the fan setting. Okay, so this is all about aeration. So we have 4 eggs, 100 grams of caster sugar and a whisk. And I'm gonna stand here for probably 5 minutes until it's gone really light and pale, probably quadruple the size, and that's actually called a sabayon stage. This has taken about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So what you're looking for is thick and moussey, and that's called the trail stage. This is basically a thick sabayon. This is where the Swiss roll actually gets its aeration from, is this egg stage. So if you don't do this properly now and long enough, it just won't work. You get a flat biscuit. Okay, so we have 2 bowls, one of the egg mixture and one of flour and cocoa powder. So it's only 60 grams self-raising flour and 40 grams of cocoa powder, but it is sifted, which I never sift anything, but is important in this instance, or you're gonna get lumps of cocoa powder. What we then do is put probably half, actually we're gonna put it all in hindsight. This is an important technique, is folding. If I then use a whisk or a spoon, you will knock all that air out that you have just incorporated. So use a flexible spatula, as I've got here, and you go under, go right to the bottom. This is it's obviously quite heavy, the flour and the cocoa powder, and the egg is light, so therefore it goes straight to the bottom straight away. So if you just kind of mix on the top, when you tip it out, you have an enormous, great big lump of, see there, as I did that, so right to the bottom I'll fold over. You see some very odd techniques on the internet. It's just common sense, just don't beat it. You want to fold it gently, fold. See, every time I'm folding, it hits see there, an air pocket, loads more flour. Got to be consistent. Carry on, and it'll be pretty obvious because when you turn it over, you won't find any cocoa. Right, so gentle, but don't be stupidly gentle, you've got to mix the thing. Okay, this is gonna go in the oven for about 8 minutes. Here's the tray, let's have a quick, nice and neat. Here's the tray, greaseproof paper. Okay, so we're gonna pour this mixture on the tray. Now you will need to smooth this out. This will rise considerably. Okay. So next stage you're gonna see is this all nicely on the tray. Okay, there we go. So this is gonna go in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. We'll do 8 first and then C. So Alexa, set timer for 8 minutes. And off we go. So in my bowl, we're gonna make the ganache now. I've got 300 grams of dark chocolate. It is really important that you use dark chocolate, milk chocolate, etc. It doesn't have enough cocoa, you won't taste the chocolate at all. It'd be sort of too wishy-washy. I then have heated, just taken off 300 mils of double cream. Now the hot cream goes straight over the chocolate and then you leave it. All right, so you need to give it an occasional stir, so then it melts and it mixes, but this is going to be the ganache. Right, and I'll show you that in a second. Time has just gone off for 8 minutes, so let's have a look. Let's open the door, pull it out. Now we know if it's done. Standard cake, give it a little prod. If it springs back, we're all good. That was 8 minutes, we're all good. I'm now going to take this out and show you the next stage. Right, so the sponge is out. What we now do is get a larger sheet of grease-proof paper, and we have some icing sugar, and we're going to dust the grease-proof with some icing sugar. This is more about it not sticking, kind of really more than anything. Right, we then get our, as you already saw, cooked Swiss roll. Just going to make sure it comes out. Make sure the edge, you might have greased it, and it might have paper, but you don't want it sticking because that's fairly disastrous. Make sure that's loose. Okay, we now need to be brave. So we want to take it and just flip it over, boof, like that. Get rid of this. What we now want to do is take off the paper. Now this needs to happen all fairly quickly, because if you leave it, it will set like flat, and when you roll it, it will stay flat, and when you roll it, it will crack, which is not a major problem because you're going to cover it with icing, but you know. Right, so we could either have a short chunky one or a longer one. Let's go for the longer one. Using the paper, you make a little, don't cut it as such, but make a little dent. So you don't cut all the way through, but making a little dent, and that just helps with the rolling. So we're gonna roll. Now what's a little bit unusual, and which confuses people, is that you actually roll it with the paper as well. And if you don't, it doesn't work great. So we're gonna roll, 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 roll. There we go. That, we can leave that now to the side to completely cool down. At this point, I'm gonna bring in my ganache, and as you can see, that's nearly there. Keep on stirring because of the heat is in there with the cream, but you want all the lumps out. If you need to, for some reason it wasn't hot enough when you poured it in, you can very, very carefully put it in the microwave, literally 5-second burst, take it out, stir it, and that'll be fine. What now happens is, because obviously that's far too wet to pipe on anything, that now needs to sit in a fridge until it has hardened up. All right, so, and then therefore it's pipeable and you can smooth it all over the chocolate log or the Yule log. Okay, so there we go, and I'll show you that in a while. Okay, so this has been in the fridge for about 20 minutes, thereabouts. You want it probably another 10 minutes or so, because obviously if I put this on the Swiss roll, it's gonna fall off. So you want it a little bit thicker. All right, it's about another 10 minutes and then it'll be good. Okay, I'm just gonna whip the cream. I'm not gonna show you that because that's fairly dull. But at this point, you could obviously add a flavouring. So maybe some chestnut puree. You could even have a chocolate cream. To do that, you'd actually whisk the cream first and then added some melted dark chocolate if you wanted to. You could put some fruit with it, but this would be all after you'd actually whisk the cream, because anything you put in is probably gonna stop it whisking up properly. Yeah, as a malted alcohol, you put a little splash of Cointreau or whatever you fancy, you know, rum or whiskey maybe. Brandy would all be good in there, or I'm just using plain cream. All right, so I'll show you this in a sec. Okay, so here we go then, the final assembly. So I've got my Swiss roll cold, my cream whisked up and anything you want to add to it, and also my ganache, which is cold as well. So this is how we do it. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. We now unroll this, and it should just unroll, hopefully. Okay, so there we go. If it cracks a bit, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be covered with sort of fondant and ganache rather, not fondant, not making a cake. Just notice, by the way, how thick the cream is. It's no good making it too loose, otherwise it will literally just squidge out. So let me get a spatula. Okay, let's put that all over. Use my mini spatula, and why not? So, scrape, scrape, scrape. Okay, let's get rid of that. Sorry for any noise. Right, so spread over, right to the edge. Some might squidge out, but you know what? Doesn't matter in the slightest. So, spread all that right to the edge. Nothing worse than having a bit of cake or something and you bite into it and there's nothing actually there. So, get that off my finger. There we go, that's probably okay now. What we now do then is at this point, we roll it up again, but using the same process, right? So we're using the same paper, it's folded there, so it shouldn't be too hard. So we just fold it over, and boom, there we go, look at that. All right, what we now do then is we actually start making our tree. Now, I've never quite seen a tree like this, but that's fine. So I'm gonna cut a little bit this way, at an angle, nice cream filling inside. What I would strongly suggest now you do is don't ice it now, because it'd be a nightmare moving it from what you're doing to where you're going, if that makes sense. So let me have a little clear up here and I'll show you what I'm gonna put it on. So always be tidy, remember, because otherwise, you know, eventually it makes more work if you're not. So here we go. I know it's a chopping board or it's like a bread board, but we won't worry too much about that. So this goes on like this, and then we can put this on here, very loosely, resembling a log. Okay, let's have a little sort of all the equipment we need. Right, so let's get rid of that. Here we go. So what we now do then, hopefully logically, we've got our ganache. Get a spoon. Now you've got a few ways of doing this. You can, if you want to put it in a piping bag and then pipe it all over and spread it. You can do that, it's probably neater to be fair to do that. But I'm not. So literally, all we're gonna do is put some blobs of ganache on. As you can see, this is deeply dietary, look at that. Amazing. Again, don't be tempted to use milk chocolate. I know, you know, we say the kids don't like milk chocolate. Dark chocolate, pardon me. It just doesn't really work in cooking particularly, or very well at least. Right, we're then gonna need a palette knife. And all we then do is logically, we're gonna work it all down the sides. Now this is gonna take some time and obviously a little bit boring, so I'm gonna come back in a second when I've done. Okay, so I've covered it all over, fairly simple, it's all nice and it's easy to spread, it's not particularly hard at all. Just by the way, if you for some reason make the ganache early, leave it in the fridge, it won't quite set solid, but it will get really firm. So before you spread it, you might need to give it a little bit of a beat first just to help you kind of spread it. What we can do is get a fork and literally make wavy lines, loosely looking like a log. All right. And there we have it, a traditional Christmas log. Really simple, 7 ingredients. If you make one, please send me an email. I'd love to see it. So cookingwithmrsdix@gmail.com. Have a great Christmas and New Year.